I didn't take the job because I was brave. I took it because I was starving. The student loans were drowning me, my rent was 3 months late, and I was eating instant noodles twice a day. So when I saw the posting for a live-in caretaker at the Blackwood estate offering $4,000 a week, I didn't care about the rumors. I didn't care that the previous caretaker had quit without notice. I just saw the money. The interview was brief. It was over a video call with a lawyer, Mr. Sterling. He didn't ask me about my experience. He just asked if I was good at following instructions. He asked if I was afraid of the dark. He asked if I had any living family who would come looking for me if I went off the grid. I lied and said no. He emailed me the contract 5 minutes later. The estate was located deep in the Appalachian Mountains, miles from the nearest paved road. When I arrived, the sun was setting, casting long, twisted shadows across the driveway. The house was a monstrosity of Victorian architecture, dark stone, high turrets, and windows that looked like unblinking eyes. It sat in the middle of a dense forest that seemed to swallow the light. I let myself in with the key from the lockbox. The air inside was cold and smelled of dust and old wax. On the kitchen counter, there was a single envelope with my name on it. Inside was the first week's payment in cash and a single sheet of paper. It was titled, "The Rules." I chuckled. Rich people and their quirks. I poured myself a glass of water and read them. Rule number 1. Keep the heavy curtains in the library closed at all times. Do not let sunlight hit the books. Rule number 2. The master bedroom on the second floor is locked. Do not try to open it. Do not listen at the door. Rule number 3. There is a dumbwaiter in the kitchen that goes down to the cellar. Every night at exactly 9 p.m., you must place a plate of raw meat on the tray and send it down. Do not wait for the tray to come back up. Rule number 4. If you hear whistling from the woods, lock all doors immediately and hide in the bathroom until sunrise. Rule number 5. Do not look at the mirrors after midnight. I remember laughing. I thought it was a prank, a way to mess with the new guy. I crumpled up the list and tossed it in the trash. That was my first mistake. The first 2 nights were uneventful. The house was noisy, pipes groaned, floorboards settled, but nothing supernatural. I followed the rules, mostly out of obligation. I kept the curtains closed. I stayed away from the master bedroom. At 9 p.m. sharp, I put a steak from the fully stocked fridge onto the dumbwaiter and lowered it into the black abyss of the cellar. It was on the 3rd night that the atmosphere changed. It was storming outside. The wind was howling through the trees, sounding like screaming voices. I was in the living room reading when I heard it. A whistle. It wasn't the wind. It was a melody. A slow, jaunty tune, like something a child would hum while skipping rope. But it was loud, piercing through the sound of the rain. And it was coming from the edge of the woods. I froze. I remembered rule number 4. Don't be an idiot, Jack, I whispered to myself. It's just a hiker. But who hikes in a storm at 11 p.m. miles from civilization? The whistling got closer. It moved from the tree line to the driveway, then to the front porch. I ran to the door and threw the deadbolt. My hands were shaking. I backed away, staring at the heavy oak door. The whistling stopped right on the other side. Then, a soft knock. Rap, rap, rap. "Hello?" a voice called out. It was a man's voice, smooth and polite. "I seem to be lost. Can I come in to use your phone?" I held my breath. "I know you're in there," the voice said, dropping an octave. "I can hear your heart beating." I scrambled backward, knocking over a lamp. I ran to the bathroom on the ground floor, locked the door, and curled up in the tub. I stayed there all night. I could hear footsteps circling the house, heavy boots crunching on gravel. Sometimes they would stop right outside the bathroom window, and the whistling would start again, soft and mocking. When the sun came up, the sound stopped. I emerged from the bathroom, stiff and terrified. I checked the front door. There were scratches on the wood, deep gouges, like a large animal had tried to claw its way in. But the height, the scratches were 7 feet off the ground. I wanted to leave right then. I packed my bag. But when I went to my car, the tires were slashed. All 4 of them. I was trapped. I went back inside and called Mr. Sterling, the lawyer. "Mr. Sterling, someone was here last night," I shouted into the phone. "My tires are slashed. I need help." "Did you follow the rules, Jack?" His voice was calm, almost bored. "Screw the rules. There is a maniac in the woods." "Did you follow rule number 3? He asked. I paused. "The meat? Yes, I sent it down." "Good. The storm will pass in a few days. Do not leave the house on foot. The woods are complicated. Stick to the rules and you will survive." He hung up. I was alone. That night, the 4th night, I was meticulous. I checked every lock. I closed every curtain. At 8:55 p.m., I went to the kitchen to prepare the meat for the cellar. I opened the fridge. It was empty. My heart stopped. I had seen 5 steaks in there yesterday. I frantically searched the freezer, the drawers. Nothing. I checked the time. 8:58 p.m. Rule number 3. Every night at exactly 9 p.m., panic set in. I didn't know what lived in that cellar, but I knew I didn't want to make it angry. I tore through the pantry. Canned beans, pasta, rice. No meat. 8:59 p.m. I grabbed a package of ham from my own personal stash in the back of the fridge. It wasn't raw beef, but it was meat. It had to be enough. I threw it on the dumbwaiter tray. The clock on the wall chimed 9. I released the brake and lowered the tray. The ropes creaked as it descended into the darkness. I listened. Usually there was silence. But tonight, I heard a sound from the bottom of the shaft. A low, guttural growl. Then the sound of the metal tray being thrown against the wall. It didn't want ham. I backed away from the dumbwaiter door. Then the rope started to move. Not down. Up. Something was pulling the dumbwaiter back up, and it was pulling it fast. Hand over hand, the pulley squealed. I ran. I sprinted out of the kitchen and into the living room, slamming the door behind me. I heard the dumbwaiter crash into the kitchen. I heard heavy, wet footsteps slap onto the tile floor. I barricaded the living room door with a heavy bookshelf. I stood there, panting, holding a fireplace poker. On the other side of the door, the footsteps stopped. Then, a sniffing sound. Deep, wet inhalations. "Jack," a voice whispered. It wasn't the smooth voice from the woods. This voice sounded like grinding stones. That was not beef. I didn't sleep. I stood by the fireplace all night, watching the door handle twitch. By morning, the house was silent again. I moved the bookshelf and peeked into the kitchen. The kitchen was destroyed. The refrigerator door was ripped off its hinges. The cabinets were torn open. And on the dumbwaiter door, smeared in something that looked like black tar, were words. "Tonight, you." I knew I wouldn't survive another night. I had to get out. I decided to walk. I didn't care about the woods. I didn't care about the warnings. I grabbed a kitchen knife and my jacket. As I walked past the hallway mirror, I caught my reflection. I stopped. It was 10 a.m. Sunlight was streaming in. But in the mirror, my reflection wasn't moving. I waved my hand. The reflection stood still, its hands at its sides. Then my reflection smiled. A wide, impossible smile that stretched too far across its face. "Going somewhere?" the reflection asked. I screamed and smashed the mirror with the fireplace poker. Glass shattered everywhere. I ran out the front door and sprinted into the woods. I ran for hours. The trees all looked the same. The path seemed to twist and turn back on itself. As the sun began to set, I saw a clearing ahead. I felt a surge of relief. I ran toward it, hoping for a road, a house, anything. I burst into the clearing, and I stopped. In front of me was the house, the Blackwood estate. I had run in a giant circle. The sun dipped below the horizon. The shadows stretched out to grab me. From the edge of the woods, the whistling started. And from the house, the cellar door burst open. I ran back inside. It was the only choice. The woods were death. The house was a trap, but at least it had walls. I bolted the front door and ran upstairs. I needed a secure room. I stood in the hallway looking at the master bedroom. Rule number 2, do not try to open it. But it was the only heavy door left. The kitchen was compromised. The living room had no lock. I kicked the master bedroom door. It didn't budge. From the bottom of the stairs, I heard the front door shatter. The whistler was inside. From the kitchen, I heard the wet, slapping footsteps. The cellar thing was inside. They were coming from both sides. "Jack," the whistler sang from the foyer. "Come out, come out." "Flesh." The cellar thing groaned from the kitchen. I looked at the master bedroom lock. I pulled a bobby pin from my pocket, a trick I learned from an ex-girlfriend, and jammed it in. I jiggled it frantically. The footsteps were on the stairs now. I could hear them breathing. One sounded like a man. The other sounded like a dying animal. Click. The lock turned. I threw the door open, jumped inside, and slammed it shut, locking it just as a heavy body slammed against the wood from the outside. I backed away into the room. It was pitch black. The air was freezing. I fumbled for a light switch. The lights flickered on. I screamed. The master bedroom wasn't a bedroom. It was a surveillance room. One entire wall was covered in monitors, and on the monitors was me. There were cameras everywhere, hidden in the kitchen, the bathroom, the woods, the hallway. I saw the hallway monitor. Outside the door there was nothing. No monsters, no whistler, no cellar beast. The hallway was empty. I looked closer at the screens. The feed from the kitchen showed the refrigerator door was still on its hinges. The cabinets were fine. The feed from the front porch showed the door was intact. The feed from the woods showed no one. I spun around. In the center of the room, sitting in a leather chair, was an old man. He was hooked up to an IV drip. He was watching me with a look of pure delight. "Excellent," he wheezed. "You made it to the final level." "What is this?" I screamed, brandishing the knife. "Where are the monsters?" The old man chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. "There are no monsters, Jack, just speakers, holograms, and a very potent hallucinogen in the water supply. I laced the pipes the day you arrived." My knees went weak. The whistling, the scratching, the reflection in the mirror. "Why?" I whispered. "I'm rich," he said simply, "and I'm bored. Reality TV is so staged. I wanted to see real fear. I wanted to see how long a man would last when his reality broke." He pressed a button on his armrest. On the wall of monitors, a new screen flickered to life. It showed the room we were currently standing in. "You broke the rules, Jack," the old man said softly. "Rule number 2, do not enter the master bedroom." "I had to," I yelled. "You drove me to it." "True," he nodded, "but rules are rules." He pressed another button. A heavy steel blast door slammed down over the exit of the room. We were sealed in. Then a vent in the ceiling hissed open. A green gas began to pour into the room. "The first phase was fear," the old man said, closing his eyes. "The second phase is survival." He pulled a gas mask from under his chair and put it on. There is one other mask hidden in this room, Jack. His voice was muffled now. You have 3 minutes before the gas liquefies your lungs. Find it. I tore the room apart. I ripped the mattress. I smashed the monitors. I overturned the desk. My chest was burning. My eyes were bleeding. The old man just sat there watching me, checking his watch. I fell to my knees, coughing up blood. The room was spinning. I looked at the old man. He was holding up a finger. 1 minute. I crawled toward him. I didn't look for the mask. I looked for the knife I had dropped. My fingers closed around the handle. The old man's eyes widened behind the mask. He hadn't expected that. I lunged. I didn't go for the mask. I went for his air hose. I slashed the tube. The old man gasped, clutching his throat. He tried to stand, but he was frail. He fell to the floor, clawing at the severed tube. I ripped the mask off his face and pressed it to my own. I took a deep breath. Clean oxygen. I watched him die. It took him 2 minutes. He clawed at the carpet, staring at me with those wide, terrified eyes. The same fear he had forced on me, he was now feeling in his final moments. When he stopped moving, the gas stopped. The blast door hissed open. I stood up, shaky, still holding the mask. I walked out of the room. The hallway was quiet. The house was silent. I walked to the kitchen. It was pristine. No damage. I walked to the front door. It was unlocked. I walked out to my car. The tires were fine. I drove away. I didn't stop for my clothes. I didn't stop for the money. I drove until the gas tank was empty. Then I walked to the nearest town. I told the police everything. They went to the estate. They found the house. They found the surveillance room. But the old man's body was gone. And on the monitors, all of them were black. Except for one. The monitor that showed the interior of my car. The footage was live. It showed me sitting in the police station parking lot. And in the back seat of my car, hidden in the shadows, a pair of eyes blinked. I screamed and turned around. The back seat was empty. But my phone buzzed. I looked down. A text message from an unknown number. Game over, Jack. Round 2 starts now. I don't sleep anymore. I don't look in mirrors. And I never, ever answer the door when I hear whistling. Because I know he's out there. And he has a lot of money. And he is very, very